So again, so we were discussing about this domiciliary care. So there are advantages of domiciliary care. First of all, the delivery will happen in a familiar environment. The chances of cross infections are very low, and the mother is able to keep an eye both on the child as well as the household responsibilities. So these are the advantages of a domiciliary care. However, there are certain disadvantages of domiciliary care as well. So what are these disadvantages? First is, so there would be less of medical supervision. So in case of hospital, the supervision would be far more. And second would be the mother would be focusing both on child and household. So rest rest period would decrease. So more less rest would be available to the mother, and that she may resume her domestic responsibilities in far earlier than what is required, and then her diet may be neglected because it has happened in the home only. So previously, the idea was that the institutional delivery should be there, but right now even domiciliary care is also being focused in India. So that is there. So now next is institutional delivery. So what happens is that approximately the idea for institutional delivery is that approximately 1% deliveries are abnormal deliveries and 4% are difficult deliveries. So these are high risk. So like 5% deliveries, it is a big amount. So then there is a need for institutional delivery. Advantages again that the mother gets in adequate rest, her diet is focused on. So that is the idea of institutional delivery. With this, intranatal care comes to an end. So it's mostly, if any question that can be asked would be about the domiciliary care. So what are the advantages and disadvantages next is postnatal care. So home-based newborn care component and all these components of postnatal care are important. So we'll take up this, and then also breastfeeding. So first of all, after care of the mother and newborn after the delivery happens is called postnatal care. What are the objectives of postnatal care? First is to prevent complications. Prevent complications in the postnatal period. Second part is that so it ensure that rapid restoration of health of the mother. And third is there would be adequate breastfeeding, providing family planning services, and health education. Education would be important. So these are the components of the objectives of postnatal care. Again, we will provide physical counseling, then psychological and social counseling. And what are the minimum recommended postnatal visits? So PNC visits. So more than 3 to 4 are recommended. So here there are two things that we have to take into account. One is the visits by ASHA, and one is visits by multipurpose worker, female, MPW female or ANM. So here, what are the visits recommended here? Would be like if there is again there can be institutional delivery or home delivery. In case of institutional delivery, as it has happened in institution, first would be on 3 days, because on the day of delivery the female is there only. So 3 days, a third day, then we have 7 day and 42 days. Remember the why 42 is there, because 42 is the date that is there in the definition of maternal death. If maternal death happens within 42 days of the delivery, then it is counted as grandmother. So 3 days, multiple per worker or ANM will visit the home 3742. While in case of home delivery, the one more visit will be there. In the zero on the day of delivery, it would be there. So that is the idea about home and institutional delivery. Then there is one more component, ASHA. So this is home-based newborn care. This question was asked. So what is the number of visits? In case of institutional delivery, 6 visits are there. In case of home delivery, 7 visits are there. So again, so first there would be 3, 7. Again, 3, 7 is the same, and 42 is also the same. So this leaves with 3 more. So 7 to the 14 and 21 and 28. So these are multipliers of 7. So 14, 21, 28. So in case of home delivery, one extra would be there. That is on day 1. The rest would be the same 3, 7, 14, 21, 28, and 42. So this is a component of home-based. How many visits are to be given in postnatal care visits are to be given. So that is that. Now we can move on to the neonatal care. So there is a flow chart of optimum newborn care. So first delivery will happen. If delivery is normal, so we will give regular nursery and then home, and the child will be sent to the home. After delivery, if there is a high risk infant, so if it is with complication, without complication, we will give temporary observation. If it improves, then routine nursing, and then they say, or if there is some deterioration, specialized care would be there, and then home again. And with complication, so again specialized care and home. So this is optimal newborn care. So what would be the immediate care that has to be given to the newborn? Immediate care. First would be that clear the airway. We have to clear the airway. Second, we have at 1 minute and 5 minutes, we have to go for Apgar scoring. Remember this clear airway and other aspects like neonatal resuscitation is a separate topic. What are the components of neonatal resuscitation? So this Apgar score is a score which is considered an important aspect, especially in case of low birth weight. So at 1 minute and 5 minutes, it has to be done. So this scoring system is like 0, 1, 2. So there are 5 parameters. First is appearance. That would be this. Then P would be pulse. Pulse would be heart rate. Then grimace. That would be reflexes. Then A for activity, muscle tone, and R would be respiratory. So what are this? If it is blue, it is 0. If it is um, uh, body pink, but extremities blue, 1. And then if it is like all pink, then it would be 2. Pulse would be, if it's absent, 0. If it is below 100, then 1. If it's more than 100, 2. Grimace would be reflexes, no response, grimace, yeah, crying would get 2 marks. Then uh, next would be activity, muscle tone. If it is flaccid, some flexion of extremities and active movements. Respiratory effort would be absent, slow, and good crying. So all these uh, uh, things would be used, and in order to know that, so total would be 5 3s are 15 score would be there. After scoring would be there. A score below 5 would need prompt action. Um, so more that would be a severe condition would be there in case of this. So that is the second element of immediate care. Third would be care of the code care. So generally it is being recommended that there should be a delay in code cutting. So like it should be approximately 10 ml of extra blood can be derived to the body of a fetus if the cord is cut after the pulsation of the cord, when the cord stops pulsating, then clamping is done. So the cord care, then care of the eyes. So it has to be cleared with sterile wet swabs. So it has to be done one separate swab for each eye, and it has to be done from inner to outer side. Then we have to give this care to the skin, and body temperature has to be maintained, and then breastfeeding. So what is the breastfeeding component? The first milk is called uh, colostrum. Colostrum. So it is very important, and it has to be started within an hour of birth. And there are various advantages of giving colostrum. Uh, it comes till 3 to 6 days, and after 3 to 6 days, regular breast milk happens. So that is about the immediate care that has to be given. Uh, so afterwards, let's move on to the second component, at risk. Again, the at risk approach that is used in reproductive, the obstetric component is also used for the neonatal component, where at risk infants which are having low birth weight and all these components are given priority. So let's discuss about low birth weight. So within this low birth weight, we will be discussing about this thing, uh, what we call as breastfeeding, along with this kangaroo mother care, and then we will be focusing on feeding of the infants, how we have to feed them baby friendly hospital initiative. So let's restrict to this second component discussion to the low birth weight discussion only. So first of all, there is an international agreement. What is low birth weight? If the weight of the baby at birth is less than 2.5 kg, irrespective of the period, whether it's preterm, term, or postterm, it's low birth weight. So we know what is preterm. Preterm is less than 36 to 7 weeks, and then term is 37 to 42 weeks, and postterm is will be more than 42 weeks. So that is the point. Now, so there is what within low birth weight, it can be to preterm babies. So preterm babies can be they have to be less than 37 weeks in order to be labeled as preterm. So further grading is there, moderate, very preterm, and extreme. So if it is like 32 to 37 moderate, then 28 to 32, then this is a very preterm, and extremely preterm would be less than 28 weeks. So, what are the causes of preterm baby? It's basically divided into two parts: spontaneous preterm birth, and second aspect is that the provider initiated preterm. So, provider initiated would be that if there is a medical induction, cesarean birth, and non-medically indicated. So, some obstetric or fetal indication for preterm, inducing the labor, starting the delivery way before because of certain indications. Spontaneous preterm would be if there is an adolescent pregnancy, like age of pregnancy is low and the spacing is less. Second would be there are multiple pregnancies. So small would before time would be there if infection are there. Then if there are some chronic conditions of mother, then nutritional malnutrition is there. Then if there is a lifestyle issue of smoking, then preterm is there. Then psychological issues of the mother, like depression and all this thing, and genetic factors are responsible for this thing. Now, what are small for date infants? Small for date infants are that they weigh less than 10th percentile of the gestational age they are born with. So the uh, small for gestational age, against it is because of this intrauterine growth retardation. So that is there. So let's tackle the most important component that can be asked is kangaroo mother care for low birth weight babies. Kangaroo mother care. So it was first of all started in Colombia by Dr. Hector Martinez and Edzar Ray. So Dr. Hector and EDSA. So they started, and then later on it was adopted. And there are four components of kangaroo mother care. First is there is to skin positioning of the baby on mother's chest. So we know this classical way. So on the mother's chest, the child has to be given skin to skin contact. Second is during breastfeeding there should be adequate nutrition. Then third element is there would be ambulatory care because there would be earlier discharge from the hospital. And fourth would be uh, support the mother and her family in caring for this care. So that is the point that we can say that these are the components of a kangaroo mother care. In case of obstructed, what are the indications and when it should not be given? For that, what is the procedure? Like front opening gown should be there. It should be done in culturally appropriate clothing. So that kind of point is there. So four components of kangaroo mother care: the elaboration about skin to skin contact, what should be the position. So this is about low birth weight. Now let's move on to some topic which is frequently asked, that is feeding of infants, especially the breastfeeding. breastfeeding. So there are three aspects that are to be tackled with regard to the breastfeeding. First point is that what are the advantages of breastfeeding? Then point is uh, what are the like how is it breast milk is different from cow's milk. And third would be baby friendly hospital initiatives. So these are the broad areas under which breastfeeding can be asked. So what are the advantages of breastfeeding? So there are close to 10 advantages. So we have to remember these advantages. First advantage is that it is safe, clean, and hygienic, uh, uh, like food available at the correct temperature, like 37 body temperature. So at right temperature, a clean, safe, and hygienic milk is available to the infant. So that is an advantage, and it fully meets the nutritional requirements of the baby. Third aspect is not only it's fully meats, it is highly digestible and digested completely and utilized properly by both like term babies also, preterm babies also. Then these are the general advantages. So like the quality of it. Then fourth point is that so if sucking of the breast is done by baby, it helps in development of jaws and teeth. Then it protects from malnutrition, so in a way reducing mortality. So, and there are certain biochemical advantages also. What are biochemical advantages? It prevents hypocalcemia. Calcium is there. Hypomagnesemia. Both calcium magnesium is prevented. Problem biochemical advantages are given, and then there are this. So it protects the baby from chances of obesity. Then it promotes bonding between mother and the baby. Then we have uh, so some other components are also there. So after the birth, if the lactation amenorrhea is there, it helps in spacing also. Spacing is also there. Then uh, it helps. It has certain special fatty acids in breast milk that helps the baby in development of IQ. So in fact, IQ of breastfed infants is 8 points higher than that of those which are not fed on the breast milk. So let's move to the next one. So that is there. So if breast milk is not there, what we can go for artificial milk. So what are the various artificial milk we can give? Artificial feeding, that is not breast milk. So it is like we can give dried milk or we can give the cow's milk. So what are the principles of artificial feeding? So infant requires on an average 100 kilocal of energy per kg body weight per day. So about 150 ml of milk should be given. Then what protein require energy and protein requirement should be there. Then protein requirement is 2 gram per kg body weight. And then uh, so we can say the energy requirements would be 100 kilocal per uh, kg. Protein requirements would be 2 gram per kg. Then carbs would be 10 gram per kg body weight. And fourth would be uh, uh, so this is the nutritional requirements. And fourth would be that uh, after 4 months, so before 4 months, diluted milk should have to be given. Like after 4 months, undiluted boiled milk, which is cooled, can be given. So after 4 months, undiluted milk has to be given. And fifth is that is to be done in frequent intervals, 60 times, 8 times a day, and in case of older babies, 5 times a day. And during illnesses, the calorie has to be increased. Calorie intake has to be increased. So these are the broad principles. So uh, out of dried milk and cow's milk, which one is safer? Dried milk is safer because it is made in under very hygienic environment. Cow's milk may have infection associated with it. So let's now comes to cow's milk. So first element is, should it be diluted or not? In first 2 months, the WHO recommend it should be diluted. Because why it should be diluted? Because if it's not diluted, there is a high solute load on neonatal kidneys, which can have problems. So that is there. So here we were. So we have to give breast milk, and then artificial feeding we are discussing. The dried milk can be given or the cow's milk can be given. So now we should know what is the difference between the cow's milk and we can make a table human milk and the cow's milk. The difference is green and brown, something like that. What are the differences between this? First would be there are certain things which are higher in human milk and certain higher in cow's milk. So what is higher in there? Proteins are more in cow's milk. Remember this. The proteins are more is in cow's milk. In fact, 3 times of human milk proteins are there. But the point is that we this in case of human milk, we are having more of cysteine. So out of these amino acids within proteins, more cysteine available here, more methionine is there. And along with this, even though proteins are less in humans, but human milk, digestion is far better, because of which, so digestion is better digested. So because of which it meets all the requirements. However, digestion is less in case of cow's milk, and in fact, whitish curdy stool can be uh, can be seen in case of infants who are given cow's milk. So that is the point with regard to the proteins, that it is approximately 3 times that of human milk, and so that is the point. Next point would be the fats. So if we go by the fat, we will say ki so there is a quantity and quality. So in with regard to the fats, even though overall the fats are more in cow's milk, but with regard to the quantity, there are two advantages of fats in human milk, mother's milk. First advantage is that it is having better quality. So polyunsaturated fatty acids are more. In fact, especially linoleic acid and linolenic acid is there. And second is digestibility of the fats is more. So they are better digested in case of human milk. Third is with regard to the carbohydrates. So as we know, like fats is the done. So energy, if we will say, energy is more in case of like third element. Energy would be more in case of cow's milk. You know, fats are more, everything so fluids are more. And fourth would be that water would be more in case of human milk. And fifth would be carbohydrates. Carbohydrates, human milk has more of lactose. You remember this, right? Lactose is more in human milk. So that is an important element of carbohydrates. And with regard to the sixth is the most complicated one, vitamins and minerals. So how we have to remember is that first of all, in vitamins, vitamin A and C are uh, uh, more in human milk. And remember one more thing, something called vitamin D. So initially, it was thought vitamin D is not there in very low in case of humans' milk. So supplementation should be there given for vitamin D. However, now it has been found that vitamin D that is found in humans' milk, it is water soluble. Because of that, generally it is fat soluble. Because of that, it is better absorbed. So even though it is less, it is better absorbed. So there is no need in this regard. And second is with regard to the minerals, if we say minerals, one is with regard to iron. Iron, second is other minerals, especially calcium, and there is other minerals copper, cobalt, selenium. So vitamins we know AC is more there, BD is more there in case of cow's milk. AC here, BD there. So minerals with regard to iron, we have to know that quantity wise human milk is more there. Bioavailability wise also human milk is there. So if there is a exclusive breastfeeding, so the iron deficiency anemia would not be there because both quantity as well as quality of iron in breast milk is far better. With regard to the calcium, it is lesser in quantity but higher in bioavailability. So calcium also is sufficiently available in mother's milk. And copper, cobalt, and selenium are more in case of these minerals are more in case of mother's milk, and in case of cow's milk, sodium and potassium are more. So that is the broad idea about the comparison between cow's milk and mother's milk. The difference between uh, cow's and mother's milk with regard to dilution. So like proteins are very high. One idea has to be taken. Proteins are three times, but cysteine is more there. Fats, how it differentiate between qualitative differences of fats. That is the reason behind high IQ in the breastfed infants. And then with regard to the vitamins and minerals, especially with regard to iron and calcium, we have to take care. Next is we are having something called Baby Friendly Health Initiative of 2018. So this is like updated one. So it is an initiative by WHO and WHO and UNICEF in order to promote breastfeeding. So what are the steps of it? So there are 10 steps. First step has further three parts, 1A, 1B, 1C. So what is the first A circle? So first is they have to comply, the hospitals have to comply with the international regulations, International Code of Marketing of Breast Milk Substitutes. And the 11th, so if the marketing should be as per the norms given at the international for the breast milk substitutes. Second is that there should be so this is with regard to substitutes. With regard to the breastfeeding, there should be a written policy of infant feeding that routinely communicated to the staff. And then there should be, along with this complying with international standards, the written policy, there should be a data management system in order to ensure that there is should proper monitoring. So that is the first step. So that's a more administrative one. So next step would be second step. The second step is that staff should have sufficient knowledge and competencies so that breastfeeding is supported. So staff should have competencies. Third element is we have to discuss the importance and management. So it's like counseling. Discuss the pregnant women and their families about the importance of breastfeeding. Then fourth step would be uh, facilitate immediate and uninterrupted skin to skin contact and start the breastfeeding as fast as possible. So first we have to discuss, then facilitate an immediate skin to skin contact and breastfeeding. Fifth would be supporting the mothers. So this would be skin to skin contact mostly, and then supporting the mother in order to start the breastfeeding and maintain the, so initiate and maintain the breastfeeding. That would be the fifth step. And sixth step is not giving breast milk, breastfed milk, other things. So that is there. Uh, then so that is like giving breast milk. Fifth and sixth would be giving breast milk and not giving other milk, other things during breastfeeding. And seventh would be there should be enable rooming in where mother and their child is there in the same room for 24 hours a day, so like continuously. And then eighth would be if the infant is giving certain cues with regard to feeding, help mother to identify those cues. Ninth would be counsel the mother or use and risk of what are the risks of this bottle feeding and all this thing. And after discharge we have to coordinate with the other uh, agencies in order to ensure that these practices are there even at the home when the mother goes home. So first step has further three parts: 1A, 1B, 1C. 1A is about complying with the international codes relating to breast milk substitutes, institution having a written policy and a data management system to deal with this thing monitoring. Then second step would be staff should be knowing all the technologies and all this thing. Mother, then we start with the mother. So everything else is about mother. So initially, the lady is pregnant, we have to discuss this thing that we have to discuss the importance of breastfeeding. Then we have to facilitate immediate skin to skin contact because only then breastfeeding would be there. Then supporting the mother in order to initiate and maintain breastfeeding. Then not giving other things to breastfed infant, practicing rooming in, then helping after rooming in, so infant would give cues, so help the mother identify those cues, and then finally counseling that there are disadvantages to bottle fed feeding, and during discharge we have to coordinate the discharge. So that is a baby friendly health initiative. So with this, I think the uh, uh, neonatal, especially obstetric and neonatal newborn care is there. Next element would be the child related services and the health programs at the international and national level, especially